It is time now for On the Radar, and we're back with Kyle Taylor, wealth advisor and portfolio manager at TriDelta Private Wealth. Okay, so durable businesses on your radar. You've got a couple picks here. We'll go through them. NextEra Energy is your first pick.
Yeah, well, I think generally utilities is a sector that I would highlight. And within the U.S., I think you really need to be highly selective, though. You can't just put a blanket statement that utilities are a great sector.
Yeah.
Because in the U.S., there's a very big difference between regulated and unregulated utilities. Regulated utilities are subject to these things called rate cases. Happen every few years. They effectively are a negotiation between the regulators and the lawmakers to set the rates that balance business investment along with the consumer appetite. And NextEra has a really great track record of engaging in those discussions in a way that is constructive and also benefits NextEra. And they're a Florida-based utility provider in wind and solar. They have some sizable contracts with Alphabet's Google as well as Meta. And I think they're in a really good position, a favorable environment that they operate in.
Centrica PLC, another one?
Centrica is a UK utility provider. I think Europe is worth a look in terms of the AI power demand. And UK is actually, they're expected to account for 20% of the overall power demand between now and 2035 in Europe. And I think Centrica is a good way to play that for investors.
You're of the mind to kind of look overseas as well? Like, don't just stay in North America when investing?
Absolutely. I think you have to, especially today, given the headline concentration in the indices in US and Canada, and just from a diversification standpoint in terms of currencies. And so there's some really great businesses out there.
Okay, so next up is from the healthcare sector, Eli Lilly.
Eli Lilly is, of course, a behemoth. Gets talked about all the time. They've been a very big beneficiary of the weight loss drugs. And what's interesting to them is they had a ruling. There was a development late 2025 from the Trump administration that these weight loss drugs were going to be eligible for Medicare. That actually expands their addressable market by about 40 million people. And you add on the fact that they're still only about 6 months out or into the rollout of their drugs in Europe. Mm-hmm. So, and they're seeing similar indicators to what they saw when they first rolled out their drugs in North America, which is very positive. And on top of that, I think that the market really isn't accounting for the cash that these pharma companies have on hand and the investment that can lead to.
But when you're talking about these different companies like Eli Lilly, they do have competitors, but it seems as though they're out on top most of the time.
They of course have competitors.
Yeah.
I think that this is a sector that, particularly last year, had some pretty poor sentiment. They're not as great a value today as they were, say, in August of last year, but I still think that there's some momentum to be had in that space. And you have to note that a lot of the negative headlines from the U.S. administration in regards to healthcare, I view that as short-term noise and an opportunity for a longer-term investor.
Probably the same thing for the next one we're going to be talking about, which is your pick, Bombardier. Also had a rough day on Friday.
Yeah, Bombardier, I think, was an interesting case study for probably what's to come, because I think that the market is becoming very headline reactionary, and with Trump's tweet around putting a tariff on Canadian aircraft as well as decertifying Bombardier jets, whatever that means.
Which you can't do.
Exactly. There are over 1,200 operators who use Bombardier jets just in the U.S. A lot of confusion, obviously. I think the stock was down at its low 8% and finished down 6%. All I can say is that I was adding to my Bombardier on Friday, and I think that there will be select opportunities like that for the next several months as the USMCA negotiation heats up, and there will be tweets and there will be headlines, and I think really you just need to look at the fundamentals of the business and kind of almost not put your blinders on, but realize that the worst case is not always the base case.
Realize that there's more to the business than just, rhetoric coming from the White House, right? Because like Bombardier, I'm just looking, is reporting its fourth quarter next week, I believe, or February 12th, whenever that is, might be next week.
Yep.
So obviously the company itself, despite, political noise, still doing well.
The company's had a great run, and I think that I think the Canadian positioning around expanding our trading partners is a benefit to Bombardier, and I think that's been reflected in the stock over the last year or so.